Welcome back, everybody. This is Grace, or Gibby, whatever you prefer, and I'm back today with another Yulgar only video, taking on difficult quest bosses with limited gear. And today I'm taking on the Wicked King Challenge mode, which rewards you with the Underwyrmling pet, which can damage SP. So it's a really good pet, really hard boss, if you don't know the method, or a good method. Also, the method I'm using can be done with any build. I was a ranger in the video. You can do it if you're a warrior, if you're a mage. Uh, Easiest for rangers because of the guest I was using. So if you're not a ranger, you'll have to look into the guest. But that won't make sense to you right now, so just wait until I bring it up later in the video. Before I get into the gameplay, I'm going to show you the location since it's pretty obscure if you haven't been there before. And then I'm going to show you 3 different methods to beat the Wicked King challenge. 2 of them have item requirements, and the first method, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not easy. The second method is, but it does have item requirements. But the third method, anyone can do with just accessible items. So, buckle up because there's quite a lot of explanation, because there's boss mechanics, quest mechanics, and a lot of gear explanation. So it might be a little bit. But before I get into any of the 3 specific methods, I'm going to talk about the quest. So the quest is really long. You're going to want your best light and or ice nukes because there are a ton of fire and dark monsters that are weak to light and ice. There are also 2 mini bosses, and that sounds annoying, but it's actually good because they both have checkpoints. So if you make a mistake and die after that, you get sent back to the closest mini boss. So you save time in case you die. But it is a very long quest, so just be ready for that. For me, I used Paladin for light and Horror Show armor for ice, and then I had the Devilish armor for fire and dark compression. That's pretty much all you need. You could do it with just Devilish and like an ice weapon, but it's quicker if you have Paladin and or Horror Show or another source of nukes. The boss also has a checkpoint. So if you flee the boss or if you die at the boss, you go back to the starting screen where you can select normal battle, challenge battle, or flee to battle on. I recommend going into a fight, filling up your SP, and then fleeing, just so you can start the fight with full SP. And if you see me fleeing in the middle of my first and second attempt, that's why I did it. I didn't want to kill the boss. I wanted to show you how to beat the boss and then reset so I could show you the other methods without doing the whole quest again. Okay, so that's the quest mechanics. Now it's out of the way, I'm going to explain the Wicked King himself, his mechanics. So, first off, you'll get into the fight and he will have a chance to stun you and your guest. And I don't think he can stun your pet, but it's possible he can. I just didn't see it. Not a big deal if you get stunned for 1 turn. He also only attacks with fire damage, which seems like a good thing, like, oh, he only attacks with 1 element. But the big thing about the challenge mode fight is that he hits you with a permanent prismatic burn. So you can't really get rid of it, you can't really avoid it or resist it. It just hits you every turn. It also hits you twice if you use celerity, so keep that in mind. Prismatic burn hits against all your elemental resists. So if you're only strong against 1 element, you'll take a lot more damage. But if you're neutral and like a little bit strong against lots of elements, you'll take less damage. The prismatic burn is the hugest chunk of his damage, so most of his damage is going to be coming from the burn, not from his fire attacks. The second thing he does is when he hits you and he does more than 0 damage, so misses, and if you use a shield or a barrier, not a shield, if you use a barrier or a mana shield, then if he does 0 damage, he can't inflict this status on you, but if he hits you and does more than 0 damage, he can inflict haunting on you. And every stack of haunting makes you take 25% more damage, and not just from his attacks, but also from the burn. So, if you let these stack up, you'll take a ton of extra damage. The way to get rid of the haunting stacks is to heal him, and the best way to heal him is to do either dark or fire damage, because he has negative resistances to those. So you have to deal damage and heal him, and it's sort of like a balance between outputting damage and healing him and making sure you're not taking too much damage. Also, it's important to know that for getting rid of the haunting stacks, every hit of healing damage is 1 stack. So if you hit him really strong with one ability and it heals him, only one haunting hit will go away. But if you hit him with 5 weak hits, multiple stacks of haunting will go away. So your goal should be to use a multi-hit effect to get rid of the haunting. Also, he has a mana attack. It does a little more damage than his normal attacks, but not by much, so don't really worry about it. Okay. So now that I've explained his mechanics, the way you're supposed to fight him, and I say supposed to loosely, like I think the way he was designed, is that you sit in a neutral armor, so an armor with even resists, which will be pretty low, but not as low as like a fire-only armor. And then you use a fire defensive misc, so you take less fire damage, and you're in a neutral armor so that the prismatic burn does less damage to you. That being said, the prismatic burn still does a lot of damage. So you can see I'm using the Armor of Awe and the Awe Shield, as well as Grokma Hide, or not Grokma Hide, the Grokma Harbinger misc, which is a fire defensive misc. And you can see that I'm still taking a ton of damage from the prismatic burn, a little bit of damage from his attacks. That's generally how it'll go if you use this neutral armor method. And before I get into it too much, I do not recommend the neutral armor method. I recommend the Paladin or Retro Golden method, which I'm showing after. Instead of a fire defensive misc, you could also use Lokaista Shard, which is a misc that lowers all your defenses by 9 against demons. This is good for weakening the Pris burn. You'll take a little more fire damage, but it's worth it. So the way I'm getting rid of the haunted stacks is my guest, and it's called Undead Army. It's available in Adder's Rip in the Sky shop, and I'm specifically using the lowest level version, so that it costs very little upkeep and it does little damage. Since it's healing him, I want it to do little damage. And it has 3 to 4 hits, depending on like which attack it chooses. So it's multi-hit, and it heals him, which is good for getting rid of the haunting stacks. If you don't have Dex and Charisma, using the lowest level one, it'll be too inaccurate, so it won't get rid of your stacks very often. You should either use a high level pet or a different effect, and I list some different effects you can use for other builds later on in the video near the end of my explanation of the Retro Golden method. But that being said, my guest is hitting him for darkness damage, which gets rid of the haunting effect on me, so I'm not taking extra damage. Now, you should also have a darkness weapon if you're doing this, just in case your guest gets unlucky and misses a lot in a row, so that you can attack him with higher accuracy and make sure to get rid of those haunting stacks. I forgot to bring one. That was a mistake. I meant to bring one and show you how to use it. So just know that if you get too many haunting stacks and your pet or guest misses too much, you got to attack with a dark weapon or a dark spell. So you can see that this neutral method is not that great. I'm still taking a lot of damage, even though I'm playing very defensively, and I'm losing a lot of health. That was until I used the baby egg pet. Now the baby egg pet is a seasonal rare from Grenwog. What it does is it gives flat damage reduction against all elements, and it applies to every hit that the enemy does. So if the enemy hits with 1 hit, it reduces the damage once. If it hits with 4 hits, it reduces the damage 4 times. The reason it's so good against Wicked King is because Prismatic Burn technically counts as 8 hits, because it's hitting with all 8 elements. So, Baby Egg applies to it 8 times, so it's 8 times stronger than it would usually be. This means that you can pretty much nullify the damage from the Prismatic Burn, and since that's the biggest source of damage that you're taking, it makes the fight so much easier. So, if you happen to have Baby Egg or the Grenwog Portal painting, I recommend using it, as it'll make the whole boss fight super easy. Now, if you don't have it, it's a lot harder to do in a neutral armor, and I don't recommend this method. So to summarize, the neutral armor method, you use a neutral armor and shield to get all of your resistances low in a balanced way, and then you either use a fire misc or Lokaista Shard as defense for your misc option. You use some way to do darkness damage. I use a guest with multi-hit, and you have either a healing pet or a healing guest, and then you use any weapon you like or any spell you like. That's how you take him down. If you don't have Baby Egg, you'll take a ton of damage, and you'll struggle a lot. That's why I don't recommend the method. The next method does not require Baby Egg, and it does not use seasonal gear. What it does use, however, is the level 21 Paladin armor. well, not level 21, but the Advanced Quest Paladin armor. Now, I do have a guide on the Advanced Paladin quest. It might not be out for a couple days, depending on when I release this video, or it might have already come out. You can look on my channel for it. But if you don't have the Paladin armor completed, Paladin quest line completed, then skip to the retro golden section, because this part obviously can't be used by you. But anyways, the Paladin method is great. Wicked King is a demon, so Paladin already gets some defenses against him. But if you use Zorbac's Undeadify Ally Assist, the defenses are way, way stronger. Once he's undead, you can simply use a healing pet and a multi-hit Darkness Guest like I did, or another multi-hit Darkness or Fire effect if you don't have Charisma or Dexterity. And then you can just spam the Paladin Inner Light spell against him. Specifically the efficient version, because he has a damage cap, but it doesn't really matter if you use the efficient version or the normal version. I recommend, for weapons, I recommend using either a Sacred Paladin weapon to top up your healing, the Lion's Roar weapon from the Communicant set to increase your spell damage, or the Mystic Retro Golden Axe, which restores mana and SP while spellcasting. Mana for your guest and SP for your spellcasting if you're a warrior or ranger, or if you're a mage, SP for your guest, and mana for your spellcasting. Either way works. Mystic Retro Golden Axe makes the fight super easy and relaxed. You don't have to worry about your resources, so I recommend it. If you want more defenses, you don't need any extra defenses other than the armor and shield and a healing pet. But if you do, you can use Baby Egg or the Communicant Misc. Baby Egg for the flat reduction, as I just explained, and the Communicant Misc for reducing all incoming damage, including damage over time, like Prismatic Burn, by half against undead. So that's why Communicant Misc is really good. So all of these optimizations, though, aren't needed. You can really just sit in the Paladin armor with a healing pet and a source of dark or fire damage to get rid of the haunting stacks, and then you can just burn him down with your spells and Paladin skills. That's the quickest way to beat the Wicked King and the most foolproof, because Paladin is just super strong. But if you don't have it trained, you can't use this, obviously. Also, just a reminder, bring a darkness weapon or a darkness spell in case your guest misses. Misses a lot. Now, the last method is the one that anyone can follow, because all of the items and weapons and such used are in accessible shops that you don't need to do quests for. As you might have guessed, as I mentioned it earlier, it's the Retro Golden Armor method, and it's like Paladin in that when you undeadify something, it defends everything against the light resist. So this trivializes the Prismatic Burn and his attacks. The other stuff I used was a simple light weapon from Robina, because I was, again, a ranger for this. Again, you could use a magic weapon or a melee weapon if you're another build. It doesn't really matter. And I used a healing pet and a dark guest, as well as an SP healing spell. Other builds could use other healing spells, and you could use any pet. The healing pet helps. You could use a damage pet and some healing potions. It doesn't really matter. Note that the Dark Guest, the multi-hit Dark Guest Undead Army, will not work if you don't have Dexterity and Charisma. If you have one, it'll work, but it'll be a little inconsistent, so you'll need a dark weapon to attack with sometimes. If you have neither, it won't work at all at a low level. So the solutions to this are, you can either buy the high-level version of the Guest, because it has much higher bonus to hit, but it also has a higher upkeep. You could use, if you're a mage, you could use a low-level version of the Nocturnal Night Raider's spell, which is it's an accurate dark spell that has 9 hits, so you'll surely hit him once or twice or 3 times, and then get rid of your haunting stacks without doing much damage to him, and it also costs less mana. Fireball Z also works if you happen to have it, and use the low-level version. For warriors without charisma or dexterity, it's harder, but you can use a low-level Tyrannosaurus Rex armor basket breath skill. You'll take more damage on the next turn, but since you have the haunting stacks, you have to get rid of them some way. And if you don't want to do all that complex low-level item stuff, just use a fire or darkness weapon and attack with it. That works too. It's very reliable. Now that the different build options are out of the way and explained, the method is super simple. Simply use Zorbak to undeadify the Wicked King, make him undead so that he only attacks your light resist, and then simply attack him down or spellcast him down with whatever method you like. As long as you stay in the retro golden armor, you'll take next to no damage. I never got below half HP with my particular strategy. I was just using healing spells when I had full SP and attacking otherwise. The fight was really easy, and I recommend this exact method to anyone who really wants the Underwyrmling pet, but doesn't have, say, Paladin or Baby Egg or other strong gear to get it. I hope this video was helpful. I hope I explained the methods clearly and the mechanics clearly. If you have any questions, please let me know in the description or in the comments. Be happy to answer them. And if you have any recommendations for other quests to do, please let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace. Peace and love, everybody.